Why are men obsessed with Sydney Sweeney while women swear by Sabrina Carpenter? One is seen as the ultimate fantasy, soft, blonde, and tragic. The other, a sharp-tongued, self-aware pop star who sings what women feel but rarely say out loud. Two icons, two audiences. But the real story, it's about how we look at women and what that says about us. Shout out to Gia Palmer, the first moderator of our channel. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss a draw. Seriously, your support means everything. I see you, I appreciate you, and I love this little community we've built. In today's fame economy, celebrity isn't just about talent, it's about perception. It's no longer what a star says, sings, or wears. It's how we watch them, how they're lit, framed, edited, tweeted about, fantasized over. In other words, the performance isn't just on stage or screen, it's in our eyes. And when it comes to two of the most buzzed about young women in pop culture right now, Sydney Sweeney and Sabrina Carpenter, the way we look at them says as much about us as it does about them. Sydney is adored, or more accurately, devoured by a largely male audience. She's painted in soft focus fantasy, wrapped in a kind of curated chaos that never quite breaks the mold. Meanwhile, Sabrina resonates like a confessional diary with women who don't just listen to her, they see themselves in her. She isn't posed, she's present. She narrates her own heartbreaks, insecurities, and clapbacks with a wink and a wound. So why does Sydney feel like a dream and Sabrina like a diary? Why do men idolize one and women trust the other? To answer that, we have to unpack the gaze. Not just who's being watched, but how they're being watched. Because Sydney Sweeney and Sabrina Carpenter aren't just two celebrities. They're two projections, two reflections, two battlefields in an ongoing cultural war over who gets to define femininity and who gets to own it. Sydney Sweeney didn't just rise, she was framed into stardom. Her breakout role as Cassie in Euphoria wasn't just a performance, it was a portrait. Soft lighting, slow camera pans across her face and body, carefully timed tears. Every scene felt more like a fantasy sequence than real life. And that's the point, Sydney wasn't just acting, she was being constructed for consumption. Comments about Sydney Sweeney after the Met Gala.
Sydney Sweeney is aging like milk. She's average to me, lol. She's only got two things going for her. The HD did her dirty. Sydney Sweeney is one of the most beautiful women in the world, and if you can't see that, then I don't really know what to tell you. But regardless, in the year of our Lord 2025, how do people think it is okay to jump on their little keyboards and tip tip tap this absolute shit? Like, the mind boggles. Say it louder for the people at the back. Celebrities are not immune to having pores, fine lines, skin texture. They're normal people. They're not gods. They're not Paulus wonders. Glass skin does not exist without a little bit of help from our old friend, Photoshop. Especially not when you're wearing event makeup that needs to last all night long, that's sweat-proof, that's rain-proof, and that needs to be photographed well from every angle under hot, hot lights. It ain't gonna happen. But here are some comments that were breathed in the same breath that restored my faith in humanity. Oh my god, Sydney Sweeney has nasofolds. Like me, I feel better. This is the most refreshing video I've seen all day. She has skin texture like the rest of us. Am I the only one who dearly loves seeing celebrities rock textured skin? This is normal skin. Do people know what skin looks like without filters anymore? We are all human. So once again, Sydney Sweeney is one of the most stunning women in the world. She looks gorgeous at the Met, but she is not immune to having skin texture, acne scarring, fine lines, nasolabial folds. She's normal, just like me, just like you.
Cassie's entire character revolves around being wanted. Her breakdowns are beautiful, her pain is poetic, her chaos is captured like art. The camera doesn't just follow her, it obsesses over her. This isn't a reflection of Sydney's acting skill, which is undeniable. It's a reflection of the male gaze, a term coined by feminist scholar Laura Mulvey to describe how women in media are often reduced to objects of visual pleasure rather than full complex people. In this gaze, women are not characters, they're concepts. They're not watching, they're being watched. Sydney didn't ask for this gaze, but she became its latest masterpiece. Her blonde hair, wide eyes, and curvy figure fall into a long cinematic lineage of women who are desirable because they seem fragile, sexy because they seem sad, and above all else, passive. She's the kind of girl men imagine saving, dating, or controlling. Like, not the kind they imagine challenging, though. And social media, it doubled down. Fan edits stripped away nuance, leaving only aesthetics. Threads on Twitter call her dream girl, like it's a compliment, but really it's erasure. Entire online identities are built around the fantasy of dating someone like her, not knowing her, just owning the image. Sydney Sweeney isn't being admired, she's being projected onto. And this is the trap of the male gaze. Visibility without agency. Sydney is everywhere. But rarely on her own terms. Her image isn't about who she is, it's about how she makes men feel. Desire replaces depth, and that desire is carefully lit, tightly edited, and mass distributed. Where Sydney Sweeney is seen, Sabrina Carpenter is heard. If Sydney is a dream sequence directed by someone else, Sabrina is the narrator of her own story, messy, cheeky, and unmistakably in control. Her appeal isn't about being perfect or untouchable, it's about being understood. She doesn't perform for the gaze, she plays with it. From her deeply confessional lyrics on emails I can't send to her sharp, self-aware interviews, Sabrina has crafted an image of someone who's emotionally visible. She's not trying to be the cool girl. She's the girl who spirals, who jokes about it, who admits it and then turns it into a hit song. That vulnerability isn't weakness, it's a strategy. It builds trust, and trust for her largely female fanbase is everything. This is where the female gaze comes into focus. Not a widely known term, but a quietly powerful force. Unlike the male gaze, it doesn't fixate on how a woman looks. It leans into how she feels. It doesn't frame vulnerability as erotic, it frames it as relatable. Sabrina's songs aren't meant to be ogle, they're meant to be felt. When she sings about being villainized for liking the wrong guy, she's tapping into something raw. Judgment, shame, rage. Emotions women have been taught to suppress but instantly recognize. Even her sense of humor becomes a form of rebellion. Take her now viral outro riffs in nonsense, the baby voice, the flirty punchlines, the absurdity of it all. It's not for the male gaze, it's a parody of it. It's Sabrina winking at the camera saying, I know you're watching, I'll give you something to look at, but it's going to be on my term. That's power, that's authorship. Here's where things get really interesting, and and personal. Because this isn't just about two celebrities, it's about us. About what we're drawn to and what that says about what we're allowed to want. For many men, Sydney Sweeney represents fantasy. The girl who's beautiful, sad, and just unhinged enough to seem interesting, but not enough to actually challenge their perception of control. She's the dream girl in the cinematic sense, soft around the edges, emotionally exposed, visually romanticized. Men aren't connecting with her inner world, they're projecting onto her. She becomes the screen and the story, their feelings, their fantasies, their idealized version of femininity playing out on a loop. Now flip the script. Sabrina Carpenter doesn't invite fantasy, she invites identification. Women don't want to be with her, they want to be her, or at least feel like they could be. She's not selling a fantasy life, she's offering emotional truth. Her lyrics echo the quiet humiliations and internal contradictions that women live through but rarely hear articulated. When she's angry, funny, insecure, or confident, it's not performative, it's familiar, it's safe, it's human. That's the difference. Sydney makes men feel something about her. Sabrina makes women feel something about themselves. Of course, these aren't hard lines. There are women who love Sydney and men who relate to Sabrina, but the cultural patterns are loud and clear. On TikTok, Sydney gets filtered through longing and voyeurism. Sabrina gets filtered through reflection and solidarity. One becomes a muse, the other becomes a mirror, and neither asked for it. It's easy to talk about who gets attention, harder to talk about what that attention costs, because being watched, really watched, isn't just about fame, it's about pressure, it's about distortion. And for Sydney Sweeney and Sabrina Carpenter, the gaze may come from different angles, but it cuts both ways. Sydney is everywhere, but often through a lens she didn't choose. Yes, she's celebrated, but it's a narrow celebration. Her body gets more headlines than her performances, her curves trend more than her quotes. Casting directors underestimate her because she fits too neatly into the fantasy she didn't ask to play, and that's the catch. The male gaze gives you visibility but not range. It rewards you for fitting a mold, then punishes you when you try to break out of it. Yeah, but something's changing slowly, messily, undeniably. The script is starting to flip. Sydney Sweeney is no longer just a muse under perfect lighting. She's producing her own projects, fighting for roles that don't reduce her to curves and chaos. Sabrina Carpenter isn't just the voice of the sad girl internet, she's steering her narrative, writing her own songs, embracing contradictions, and refusing to shrink herself to make people comfortable. Both women are rewriting the rules. Not by rejecting the gaze, but by reclaiming authorship. They're not waiting to be seen the right way. They're deciding how they want to be seen. And that shift from object to author, from symbol to storyteller, is what real representation looks like. It's also a challenge to the rest of us, to audiences, to media, to fans, to stop asking women to fit neatly into categories sexy or smart, fantasy or feminist, soft or strong, to stop measuring worth through visibility and start valuing complexity. Because femininity isn't one thing, it's everything. Awkward and confident, quiet and loud, angry, funny, messy, sharp. What Sydney and Sabrina are showing, each in their own way, which is that it's time to stop defining women by how they're looked at and start asking how they see themselves. So why do men gravitate towards Sydney Sweeney? Because they've been taught to. Because culture has conditioned them to associate beauty with fragility and desire with control. And why do women feel so connected to Sabrina Carpenter? Because she gives voice to what they've been taught to silence. Because she's not a fantasy. She's a feeling, a reflection, a reclamation. Two women, two audiences, two gazes, but only one real question. Who gets to decide what being a woman looks like? Until we stop answering that question with a camera lens and start answering it with agency, we're just watching the same story play out over and over, but with different faces, and maybe it's time we change the ending. Drop your thoughts in the comments because you already know I'll be reading all of them. Love you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.